American Horror Story Delicate has recently aired its finale, and within my breakdown of the final episode, I discussed a few things that I felt this season of the show just got wrong, but I felt like I didn't get it all out there in the open in that one video. This episode, since being released, has become the lowest rated episode ever of American Horror Story according to IMDb, which most definitely sums up the state that the 12-season run of the show is in. After spending a couple of more days just thinking about it, I thought it was now time to address the finale and the entire season and discuss why I feel it just didn't work. So let's get into it. Here is why American Horror Story Delicate didn't work. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The mid-season break. One of the main things that I think hurt AHS Delicate is the break that occurred before the final 4 episodes were released. Back in September of 2023, for 5 consecutive weeks, we were given the first 5 episodes of the show, a structure that many of us are used to when it comes to watching a TV series and digesting the story. But after that 5th episode concluded in October of 2023, there was an almost 6-month break where there were no episodes being aired. But then in April of 2024, the 6th installment was released, and it then followed through in consecutive weeks until it concluded on episode 9 on the 24th of April. This is something that I believe deeply hurt this season of the show. When looking at the viewing figures, the mid-season finale pulled in around 239,000 viewers, and then 6 months later when episode 6 was released, it pulled in 243,000 viewers, so it didn't actually damage the eyes that it was getting on it. But from a storytelling perspective, we were thrown out of the world, the story, the familiarity of it, and we were just almost expected to catch up ourselves with what had happened 6 months ago and be able to just re-enter and continue on like no break had happened. At that point in the show, the story in itself was quite a complex one that had a lot of mystery to it, and it thrived when it had us, the audience, guessing what was going to happen next. So the fact that there was a big gap in time amongst the story, that we didn't really know where it was going, it felt like there was a real disruption with the way that the story was being told to us. When you look at the viewing figures in the finale, it was actually lower than when it first came back with the first episode for part 2. The finale had 232,000 viewers, and the penultimate episode the week before only pulled in 158,000 viewers. Numbers that were never really present in part 1, as in the first 4 episodes it was in the 400,000s and 300,000s. So I think taking that break meant that there were viewers of the show that maybe just didn't even realize that the show had come back, and ultimately ended up just falling away from it. But also it caused friction in the way that the story and series could be digested. Granted, the writer's strike probably did have something to do with it, but I do think it proved to be damaging in the long run. The performances by the cast members. I think this season of American Horror Story actually had some of the worst performers that we've seen in the show in a long while. AHS New York wasn't the best, but I think the performance by the cast members was significantly stronger than what Delicate was. I said in my breakdown of the show that Cara Delevingne wasn't good at all, and I still stand by that. She was actually one of my least favourite things about the entire season. I thought that whenever she was on screen, her lines were delivered in such a stale way that it felt like she was reading them from the script, and there was a sprinkle of melodrama and amplification of her performance to overcompensate for the fact that she's not really the best actor there. Plus, the accents that she was being tasked with completing weren't convincing in the slightest either, so she was a massive problem in the series. Plus, I also think that the overall cast in general wasn't of the highest quality. Kim Kardashian grew on me in the show as time went on, but she didn't start off being that great, and she didn't finish being incredible either. It just made marginal improvements. But with characters like Nicolette, Talia, Kamal and the Ashleys, they had quite a bit of screen time, and the performances just didn't make me feel immersed within the world or the characters. The only performers that I thought did a good job in this season of the show were Emma Roberts as Anna. She pretty much carried this season with the acting ability that she has, and also Dennis O'Hare. Like Emma Roberts, he's a seasoned Murphy cast member when it comes to being an American Horror Story, so you never really get a bad performance from either of them. In fact, those two being together in Freak Show was a good time too. So for me, the fact that only Roberts and O'Hare really delivered convincing, consistent performances is actually a problem, because that's 2 people out of the entire cast. Plus, Dr. Hill was barely in it in part 2, yet he was such a prominent figure in part 1, so we lost him partway through. The finale. For me, the finale was one of the biggest problems with this season. I actually think that despite the lower viewership on part 2 of American Horror Story, the quality of the story was probably a little bit better if you take away the finale. This is because there were revelations that were being made as the episodes went on. We had the episode titled Ave Hestia, which was focused on Dex's wife Adeline, which was an episode that provided a lot of answers to questions about Ivy, Adeline, Sonia, and the connection to the Delicates. Plus, there was also the episode titled Little Gold Man, which had the opening section which was centered around the movie Rosemary's Baby being in production, and the show's connection to the novel and film that was released several decades ago. Plus, even seeing the story that was centered around Anna's mother was interesting too. But when it got to the finale, by that point, it felt like the episode runtimes had just kept getting shorter and shorter. And then the actual screen time in the finale was only around 30 minutes. There was still so much that needed answering in the finale, but a lot of it wasn't even addressed. We found out that Siobhan was involved with the Delicates, but we didn't find out her true identity and how she came to be. There were reveals such as Siobhan being Dex's mother, which was just kind of thrown in there and didn't have any weight behind its prominence. Plus, the killing of Ivy, with Siobhan's task of Ivy killing Dex being a test, was one of the most ridiculous things in the entire series. A test of what? Loyalty? Understanding? It genuinely made no sense whatsoever. I also felt as though Siobhan being made out to be this big figurehead and leader of these women that make deals and then go around recruiting people, but then being wiped out so easily by just saying the worshipping words towards Hestia felt a bit weak. Siobhan had been around for thousands of years, but it literally took Adeline coming back and making Anna say it for Siobhan to be defeated with zero defense. It just felt like there was a massive hole in the fact that it was that easy, so the finale was something which was very disappointing. The lack of development. One major issue that I had with this show was that there wasn't really any development that occurred with the characters or the true story until right at the end of the season. The way that the character Anna was written didn't have her any different towards the end of the season to how she was at the start. There was no sense of relatability or rooting for the protagonist in this show, which I feel was a major flaw. Even Dex, there was mystery around him at one point, and then just out of nowhere he was revealed to be a cheater, and then he was just killed off and wasn't on screen anymore. So even when there was some kind of development that occurred, it just ultimately ended up falling flat and not really amounting to anything in the moment of holding any significant weight to it. Honestly, American Horror Story hasn't been in the best condition for quite a long time now, and one would argue that the show just needs to finally conclude. However, I think many of us live on, clinging onto the hope that Murphy will be able to make it what it once was, but I just don't think it ever will be. The fact that the most recent episode is the lowest rated episode ever is almost like the perfect symbol to highlight to us the state that the show is actually in. It's sad the direction that the show has gone in, but maybe it just needs a bit of time on the shelf before coming back. There's one more season that's officially been greenlit and commissioned, so maybe if it does go out, it could at least go out with a bang. That's something that we're just going to have to wait and see. So, there you have it, why American Horror Story Delicate just didn't work. If you want to see more videos on American Horror Story Delicate, then click on the card in the top corner. I did a breakdown of every episode, so if you want to see every episode delved into, then head over to the channel. What did you think of this season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.